Good Monday afternoon to you. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko. Glad to have y'all with us here as we kick off another week. The next 3 days, PJ, absolutely crucial. I know there's a bunch of fans sitting in their cars right now, sitting at work, doing the old toe tap. I'm doing it right now in my chair because they're fired up and they're ready for 7 o'clock tonight as the stinking New York Mets come to Truist Park for a 3-game set, currently leading the Braves by a game and a half after this weekend's results.
There you go.
Old Sandy Alcantara getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the best pitcher in baseball, PJ. When I looked at who the Mets were playing yesterday, I was like, oh, they don't stand a chance. They're going to be down. And lo and behold, Austin Riley comes through with a big old home run for the Braves when they were down 3-2 late. The Braves actually pull off an extra innings winner by, you guessed it, Austin Riley again.
Yeah, there you
right?
go.
So it was all setting up for the Braves to kind of have a letdown, be going into this series 2.5 games behind the Mets, which if that's the case, doing the game-to-game matchup kind of math in your head, the Braves wanted to be leading the series coming out of it. They'd have to sweep, right? There is a chance, PJ, now that the Braves can be going into the final game of this series with the lead.
Just
the Braves
like
win the first two, they will have the lead in the division going into the final game, and then you're playing for that division lead going out. So, yeah, you still need a sweep if you're going to have the lead going out.
Right.
But there's a chance inside the series you can grab the lead within the first couple games. And tonight, it feels like a damn playoff game.
Yeah.
Because you got Max Fried on the bump for the Braves. Another Max Scherzer going for the Mets.
A hell of a matchup, for sure.
It feels like playoff baseball in the middle of July before the All-Star break. Kevin, are you amped?
It's crazy.
2 thumbs way up for Kevin Thomas.
There you go. That's the first time we've seen that in a while from the other studio.
Way up. Kevin's ready to roll.
That's it. Who wouldn't be? I like you said though, it's amazing that you get intense baseball in July. But I mean, the main thing that set us up for this is the path that got us here, right? Like if there isn't some big, huge comeback when you're talking about the lead and whatnot and trying to get that lead, and if there isn't on the other side a possible collapse, especially from the Mets, and you just love to see that. But like if we don't take the journey to get here, then it's not as exciting as it is right now. If like the Mets were just going back with the Braves all year, back and forth, swapping leads and whatever, it'd just be another game, just be another series. But now the path that has got us here has been incredible. If you're a Braves fan, for sure. If you're a Mets fan, you know what? I've already seen, because we both know people who we've come across who are Mets fans. So like we see certain posts and things like that on Twitter, but you see all the shares and whatnot of what I was bringing to the table a few weeks ago. That part of this comeback, part of that streak was against some bad teams, but
the Mets played pretty much those same teams.
I get it. I get it. Listen, you don't have to defend it. Yeah, you don't have to defend it against me. I'm not coming after that. I'm just saying.
Sounds like you are.
If you're a Mets fan, prove it. All right, now's your chance. Go ahead.
Oh, I think they are proving it.
You want to come in here?
They're all fatalists now. It's over.
Oh, yeah, okay. So then they can just say that when they get swept?
I think more so.
I hope you're right. It's over.
I think more realistically, the Braves are coming out of this one a half game back.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have a successful series,
you win two out of 3. Yeah,
2 out of 3. That's fine.
Kevin, am I doing my math right on that? 2 out of 3 half game. Okay, 1 thumbs up because Kevin's afraid to commit to math. But
which I don't think that. Yeah. Do you think that'd be bad? Like, do you think that?
No, you take 2 out of 3.
Feel like that keeps momentum
think about
going.
What the opposite of that is.
Yeah.
If the Braves or if the Mets come in and win this series, and you're like, oh, okay, momentum kind of stops a little bit. So you got to win the series. Sweeps obviously the pipe dream, but you got to win the series. And I'm looking at this, and I understand what you're saying, where it's kind of the culmination of what's been a great month and a half for the Braves. Like Austin Riley's hitting like 450 in the month of July. The dude's unbelievable right now. You had the 14-game win streak going in the month of June. So like got close to having the best month ever for the Braves organization, right? So it's like I understand all of that, but I think more so than anything, it's two really good teams
Mm-hmm.
going head to head for a division lead.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so cool. It's two teams that have over 50 wins. If this is a couple teams coming in with like high 30s, low 40s wins, like it was last year, right? A couple teams fighting to get above 500. I don't think it has the same kind of feel to it because it's two of the better teams in baseball. Like I think the Braves, outside of obviously the NL East and two other divisions, would be in first place by a lot in every other division in baseball.
Right.
So the Mets are a good team. They've just kind of flattened out, and the Braves have hit their stride.
Yeah.
They look like the defending World Series champs.
Yeah.
And so now you got to come into their ballpark, take on their ace, and you're sending your ace to the mound. I think that's what makes it so cool. Game one feels like a playoff game.
It feels like game one.
You're both sending your aces out there.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, I'm with you. I think it adds to the excitement for sure. But either way, like you said, I think that one of the best parts about this is, the Mets are still like you said. You listen to their fandom and whatnot, it might lead you to believe something else. They're still a damn good, respectable baseball team for this year, and one that if they fully get things together and get that momentum going into the postseason, be a scary one to run into without a doubt. But like so that's one side of this that makes it so fantastic. When you talk about the Braves hitting their stride, I mean, it's like even last night in extra innings, right? Braves were losing those games early in the season.
I still don't know if I'm ready to jump on the Braves do great in extra innings train because
I'm not saying they win all of them, but like we were talking earlier in the season about, well, if it goes in extras, like that's kind of it. It's over. So
I'll say this because I know you're trying to give the Braves credit. That was both teams being inept in extra innings.
Sometimes you have
the announcers are trying to be nice, like, hey, it's two teams with two different approaches. It's like, no, it's two teams taking pretty crappy at bats.
Right.
Like you're gonna guide a third with one out, and you're not able to get them home. That's just crappy at bats.
Yeah, no.
And both teams did that a bunch.
That's rough. No, without a doubt. I'm just saying that, like, if you look early in the season, whatnot, this turnaround and over the past, like, the question was early. It seems like the Braves just find a way to lose games.
Yeah.
Right. But it's one side's playing amazing. Like the pitching is amazing. Can't hit anything. Right. You're losing 1-0, 2-0 games. The next day you flop it over to the other side and you're scoring 9 runs, but you lose 10-9. It seems like this is kind of flipped on its head over the past 2 months, where not every single game, because then they'd be still on an insane streak, right? But more times than not, the Braves are finding ways to get it done. And whether that's pretty or not, it's getting wins in the win column. So I just I think that's amazing and that's fantastic. And that's why we're here in almost mid-July talking about a insanely exciting series where the Braves, could come out on top and could come out with this series lead. And hopefully they grab it and don't look back. But
that's true.
We'll see about that.
5 Braves named to the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Obviously, you have Ronald Acuna Jr., who is starting for the NL. I don't know if he's going to be. Is he center field? I think he might end up being center field because you have a bunch of really good defensive outfielders there. But I think Ronald Acuna is going to get the start in center field. Dansby Swanson as well. William Contreras, Travis d'Arnaud, and Max Fried, all stars. I think there's one notable name not there. Austin Riley, Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Going to dive into that coming up here a little bit on 3 and Out. But obviously, this is the uniform critique show. Nike, in the not too distant past, took over Major League Baseball uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big hullabaloo.
Sure.
Big hullabaloo.
I'm not
because
going
they put the
near
Nike
that
logo on the uniform. It's a big deal.
Okay.
You're not supposed to put anything on the uniform.
All right. Yeah. So true.
But the Nike check on the uniforms, and last year, Nike came out with whatever the hell those uniforms were. But more so than that, you didn't have players wearing their own uniforms.
Yeah.
So throughout the All-Star game, and I think one of the things that makes it cool is you've seen, if you're the home team, you're wearing whatever your home uniform is that you always wear.
Yeah.
And if you're the away team, you're wearing whatever the away uniform is. So it was always cool to me to see a guy in a Braves uniform playing shortstop or third base flipping the ball across the diamond to a guy in a Dodgers uniform or a Diamondback uniform, right? It was cool. It was NL versus AL.
Yeah.
Last year they came out with some pretty atrocious uniforms. I don't know what they were trying to do with those. It looked like somebody's like Photoshop glitched while they were making the uniforms, and everything just got like mashed together, and they're like, whatever, we got to get it out.
Yeah. I honestly can't even remember them. That's how bad they were.
This year
I love
isn't
uniforms.
too bad. I'm pulling it up for PJ now.
I'm pretty sure I've seen these, like the gold.
Yeah. So what you have is for the NL teams, because it's at Dodger Stadium, NL's the home team, will be wearing the white uniforms. And so, for example, for the Atlanta Braves, you have the Braves with the tomahawk across the chest, but it's all gold.
Right.
Because it's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Black hats, or is it like navy blue looking hats with a gold A with a star above it? Obviously signifying all-star. Do love the AL uniforms, though.
I mean,
you got the slate gray,
with
the gold, and we're looking at Mike Trout here. We're like the gold angels across the chest, the black, I'm assuming, hat with the A on it and a star next to it. Like,
right. They're both clean. Like, they both look good.
Correct. But it's not as cool, I think, as the visual of seeing everybody's different uniforms, right?
Yeah.
What I always thought would have been cool is like if like a Dansby Swanson wore like the Braves throwback.
Oh man,
uniform,
that'd
right?
be incredible.
And like Ronald Acuna rocking the red, something like that. Just like
mix it up,
bring all the uniforms out. Yeah, if you're the Blue Jays, bring out the baby blues.
Yes,
woo! Like it's baseball, right? You're not like it's not like in the middle of the action you're having to find a color to throw a ball to.
Yeah,
right.
Real.
You know what's happening.
Look at the one guy who's not running towards the base, and he's probably the one you need to throw to.
Correct. Or the guy
he has a glove
who
on.
has a glove on, throw it to him.
Yeah. Like, come on now. No, I'm with you there. I will agree with you that those are clean. Like, those are really good. They are going to the NBA style, right? Where the NBA still wears the logo of the team that they play for, but they're all the same color.
Yeah.
And I think maybe for basketball, I understand that a little bit more.
But even for basketball, what you could do is your home uniform, which is traditionally white.
Yeah, true.
And then the other team would wear the color uniforms.
Right. I think you have a lot more staying power, I guess, with that model if you're baseball. And it is disappointing to see them change it up and make these changes. But
you knew it was going to happen.
I've always said,
because you sell more merch if you're Nike, if you bring out a new All-Star uniform.
I've always said, like, it's like a traditional. Now, it's like if Notre Dame which they do anyway, but like if they were to change their jerseys, right? I'm like, okay, I get the tradition argument and everything like that. But if you're going to change it, make sure it looks good. Because if you change it and it looks bad, that's the real problem.
This was the uniforms last year.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. That's disgusting. So I'm happy they've gone with this. Yeah, that's just wrong. I'm happy they've gone with this, and at least now that they're changing it, it looks good. That's my only argument. Right? If you're going to change something that's already a fantastic system, make sure it's good. And make sure it looks good.
I still like seeing dudes like go in the home run derby wearing their own uniforms.
Absolutely. I'd much rather have that. Especially when it's like
just a hat. You can switch up the hat, fine.
Yeah. You're basically, you put all your uniforms on display. It's like a sales pitch, right? You don't walk in, if you're a jersey salesman, you don't walk in with one jersey and say, hey, it's fantastic. If you have 5 guys in the All-Star game, put them all out there, man.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
The Braves red, the Braves gray, even why not? Although, like,
the Braves
I
all
think
gray is just.
I've never liked baseball all gray uniforms.
The Braves is pretty perfect. I know. Kevin, put your left hand up if you prefer the blue away uniform over the gray away uniform. Yeah, no left hand up. See, Kevin's with me.
That's
the
cool.
all gray.
He's old. It's okay.
You calling me old?
You're older than me.
That's a fact. Now, the all gray Braves away uniform is crispy. It's one of the best away uniforms in the game. I do like the batting practice blues that they wear every now and then just to switch it up.
Batting practice blues.
And it's what it looks like. They look like batting practice uniforms.
Goodness gracious. I don't know. Maybe it's just me because, like, it's weird. Like, I like playing baseball and everything like that, but this is probably a something that I brought from when I was very young playing baseball video games, and like it was like, all right, sweet. I like this team. What uniforms am I going to wear? Oh, white or gray?
Yeah.
Oh, what about this other team? Oh, it's white
Listen,
or it's gray.
Slowly but surely.
Boring.
And if I can like run for one position, it would be like the uniform minister. in the state of Georgia
I would support this
where I
for the most part.
get to like you have to bring all uniform changes through me, and I am going
Yeah.
to be very, very tough on changes. Like first move
Absolutely.
would be taking the Falcons back to the late '90s, early 2000s uniforms.
I don't
Like,
know anyone personally
yeah,
who would disagree with that.
that's the first move I'm making. Next move I'm making because the Atlanta Hawks are good. The Atlanta Hawks have done their due diligence. They've gone
For
back.
the most part.
Yeah, they've gone back. They've made things right, and whatever that those years were with like the diamond cut uniforms with the green on them, it was weird. All right, but we don't talk about
They've
that.
made a lot of weird turns, but they've always kind of come back.
They've gone back.
It's weird.
Yeah, to the red and yellow, and I think it looks outstanding. So we have that.
Remember when they were like America's team, like red, white, and blue?
Yeah,
like,
that was weird.
That was a
That was
weird
weird.
time. Also,
I mean,
like
but listen.
they were trying to be the Wizards.
I love Joe Johnson and Paul Millsap and all those boys. Kyle Korver. So I like the players and the uniforms were meh. Georgia, they've done the right thing. They had one change to make, which was taking away the bubble numbers and going back to the block numbers. They've done it.
Yeah.
Georgia gets a check off in my book. They're good to go.
People can take notes from that. Yeah.
Georgia Tech, we're gonna have some words because I don't know what the hell y'all are doing with y'all's uniforms.
We're gonna have a lot of words.
Just again, go back, look at pictures of Joe Hamilton, and use those uniforms, and you'll be good to go.
If you're gonna be a bad team, at
Georgia
least
Southern,
look good.
Georgia Southern, perfect. If you want to do a game every year where you switch it up, do like the chrome helmets, something like that, fine. But for the most part, Georgia Southern's perfect.
I had maybe a couple of changes, like maybe some white helmets and a blue stripe.
Mm-hmm.
Or like maybe take the number. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Penn State trying to
Calm
influence
down.
Statesboro. But again, Minister. But the Braves are perfect. If you want to wear your weird batting practice jerseys every now and then, fine. I get the Friday Night Reds. They're not my favorite, but people love them.
Don't disrespect. They look good,
but
man.
the home and away uniforms for the Braves are perfect, and so I'd have no changes to make. But Georgia Tech and the Falcons, we need to have some words. Let's take a quick break. We have some college football news to dive into. This is Second Down on ESPN Radio. We'll be back after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko. Glad to have y'all hanging out with us here. And we got a ton of news to dive into. Again, Kevin Thomas and Ben Troop will have more for you on the Braves coming up on 3 and Out. But Saturday Down South is reporting, and specifically Matt Hayes of Saturday Down South is reporting from insider sources something that I think we've been talking about a lot on the show, but something that feels common sense, but also at the same time, it seems counter to everything we have seen. So we've been hesitant to commit to believing it, I guess is the best way.
It's a strange time when you have to like describe things that way.
Yes.
But
and I promise, coming up, maybe not today, but coming up on the show, we are going to get into the nitty gritty of this upcoming season because we have 54 days until the first full Saturday of college football. So when Georgia kicks off against Oregon and all that, we'll have about a week ahead of that. We'll have some games.
Yeah.
Like I think outstanding job by whoever schedules for Vanderbilt. Because you know where Vanderbilt opens the season the week before?
The week before everybody else.
Yes. You know where they open the season?
It has to be somewhere. Is it Hawaii?
It is Hawaii.
They're at Hawaii.
Yes.
That's great.
Vanderbilt's having a hell of a year.
I scouted it out for him, man. Yeah. It's a nice spot. Like, I don't know if they've ever been there, but
Vanderbilt's opening in Hawaii. And all of this like conference realignment stuff's happening, and they're like, okay, best bang for your buck. Who can we get in? Who can get in? And Vanderbilt's just sitting there like cash and checks, baby. How many billions are we talking? Let's get it.
Every now and then, like
we're really good at baseball.
Everyone who manages the SEC like looks over and is like, if Vanderbilt's just in the corner, kind of like, hi, and they're like, look at you being all cute over there, Vanderbilt, and then just kind of looks away. Like, all right, let's go back to forgetting.
So Jim Donnan, former Georgia head football coach, has his own show now, has his own podcast now, and he was talking about expansion. He very much believes that like we're going to a super league where it's going to be the SEC and the Big Ten with like 30 teams each, and they'll play each other for the championship, all kinds of stuff. But inside of that, he was like, yeah, North Carolina is an obvious choice for the SEC to grab. I'm not trying to take shots at Jim Donnan. I'm not trying to say like I'm right, he's wrong, because none of us know. But he was like, North Carolina, because that would be a big basketball boon for the SEC. SEC could give a rip about basketball.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think a lot of
this is football. Do you think USC and UCLA join the Big Ten because they care about basketball?
Not wholeheartedly, no.
This is all about football, so just keep that in mind. But again, Matt Hayes from Saturday Down South said sources say the SEC wants to end expansion race, stay at 16 teams. And you can read the full article on SaturdayDownSouth.com, but two ways of thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
One way, which is what a lot of people are going to say, is SEC has to say that. You have to. You can't show people your hand. You have to say that, and then probably tomorrow it's going to come out that 4 teams are joining the SEC.
Yeah, right. We're pushing it up to 20. Like, yeah.
Other way to look at it is what I've been preaching on this show, which isn't saying like that they're going to add or not add. What I've been preaching is whoever does join has to bring more value to the conference than they're going to cost.
Yeah.
So a couple of things to know about the ACC teams that everybody seems to think are going to jump to the SEC. They are signed up, locked in to the ACC until 2036. There's players who haven't been born yet that they're going to be recruiting to join those teams.
Yep.
That's how far away that is.
Yeah.
Right? 2036. They're locked up. And some people have tried to do the math. We're never actually going to know what the actual math is, but it's going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars for those schools to break free of that. And like I've seen Florida State mentioned as a school that could potentially jump to the SEC. It's going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. Florida State's already paying off multiple head coaches that they fired. Mm-hmm. And I've heard reports that they can't fire Mike Norvell because they can't afford to.
Yeah. Right.
But they're going to pay $300 million or more to break away from the ACC.
As much as people think there's just like this endless pit of money that college football teams have.
Correct.
It runs out at some point.
And
right? So like,
people talking about Notre Dame joining the ACC. If any team wants to join the ACC, they have to sign that same deal.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame would have to sign into that same deal that goes through 2036. Notre Dame ain't doing that.
Right.
Notre Dame's TV deal with NBC runs up in 2025. And when that deal runs up, they're going to be on the market. CBS just lost the SEC primetime game. NBC could want to re-up them. There could be a ton of other network streaming services, Amazon, that come after Notre Dame and offer them more money. They don't have to get the same amount of money that everybody else is getting in terms of these conference deals, but they're going to get a lot more. I think they're at like 11 or 15 mil a year right now from NBC for broadcasting their home games.
Right.
Because they just get their home game slate.
Yeah.
So if you multiply that by 2 and say, hey, we get all of your games, which would be tough, but multiply that by 2, then it roughly values out to like 30 mil. If they just double that, right? So say their next deal is $30 million. It ain't bad because they're also getting checks cut from the ACC for playing those games that they play against the ACC. And you get paid from schools like when you went to Sanford Stadium to play Georgia. So there's all kinds of ways that Notre Dame's making money. But going back to the SEC in general, we talked about this last week. Greg Sankey would have been fired if he didn't pull the trigger on Texas and Oklahoma. And I think people forget that in 2011, Texas and Oklahoma almost jumped to the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Because they were so sick of the Big 12 and how little money that they were bringing in, right? Texas launched their own TV network. Oklahoma wanted to make the same kind of money that, I don't even want to say Ohio State, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's old rival.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma is a much better football program than them now. A much better sports program in general than Nebraska now. Nebraska's bottom of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And Nebraska's getting cut a bigger check every year than Oklahoma. That didn't sit right with them. So they were looking at the Pac-12. That deal kind of fell through at the same time that ESPN and Fox kind of came in with money to save the Big 12 from losing them. And then eventually the Big 12 fell behind again. Texas and Oklahoma tried to be patient with them. Didn't work out. Now Texas and Oklahoma are coming to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
2025 could be as early as 2023. Right? But I think the overarching point makes sense, right? The SEC wants to stay at 16. Is it because the SEC doesn't want to make more money and they're being philanthropic about this? No, it's that the SEC, just because the lump sum for the SEC is bigger, the more schools that have to evenly divide that, the number can be smaller.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what all of these SEC presidents are saying right now, which is unless you can add value, which I think the only school that might be out there anymore that adds value is Notre Dame to the SEC, and Notre Dame ain't joining the SEC.
Right.
I go ahead and put that out there. Looking at this, it makes sense to me that the SEC stays at 16.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, it might sound simple, but especially when you look at the sense of, I know a lot of people can look at this and be like, well, is that splitting hairs, blah, blah, blah. When you make money like the SEC does or like these people do, you have to split hairs even if you have a boatload of money, because that's how you keep your boatload of money.
Correct.
And that's how you make more money. So no, it makes,
well, and people,
it's not always just strictly about numbers in the sense of how many teams you have or, getting to that mega conference or whatever. It comes back to money, just like it always does.
Yes.
But I mean,
but I think people think about money in different ways, right? So, and I'm just going to throw completely off the wall numbers at you. Say the SEC right now, between their upcoming 16 teams, right? Say they make $1.6 billion, right? And the TV deal that they sign with ESPN. So what? That's $100 million that they're paying out to every single school.
Right.
Right. Every single year you get $100 million check that you're getting paid out. Again, these are just off the wall numbers. None of this is true. Right. 1.6. And then you're like, hey, I can add North Carolina, Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. Right. But my TV deal with ESPN goes up to 1.8 billion. You're like, okay, that's more. But the dividends, right? What you have to split up now between 20 schools is less than $100 million. And that's therefore, look at Greg Sankey as the leader of an investment firm. The people he has to answer to are the universities, not the SEC. The SEC very much is like the NFL. It's just this title that encompasses a bunch of different private entities.
Right.
Roger Goodell doesn't answer to the NFL.
Right.
Right. The NFL is 32 different businesses, and he answers to those owners and those presidents. Right.
Right.
That's why he gets paid a lot of money, because he makes them a lot of money. Right. Greg Sankey doesn't answer to the SEC. He answers to Georgia and Alabama and Auburn and South Carolina and all these other places that say, we want more money.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if you make a deal and all of a sudden that's less money than we were making.
What was the point of that deal?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing us?
Or
yeah.
if it's, hey, I heard Texas and Oklahoma wanted to join. Yeah, but I didn't think it was even worth taking the call. We want to stay at 14, right? We want to keep the sanctity of college football. How much more money could they have made us? Hey, Greg, why don't you come in our office real quick? Let's have a quick
exactly. Yeah, no,
right?
we don't care. Yeah.
So Greg Sankey's responsibility, and I'm not trying to say where his morals lie, but his responsibility does not lie in the future of college football and what you care about as your afternoon experiences. His job at the bare bones of it is keeping those presidents at those universities happy.
Right.
And obviously he's doing a good job.
Yeah. And if 20 doesn't make sense to them and keeping that money flowing,
well, okay, so let's
and
talk
keeping
about
that money going
quick.
up.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. If you're ESPN or you're Fox, what schools right now really move the needle for you? Like, this is worth me spending an extra $100 million a year.
Right. There's not that's the thing, right? There's not
like, because people say Clemson, you can't confuse on the field success with brand.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't. Now, if we start getting into the conversations of the SEC kicking out some of the lower schools to add those schools in, it's a different conversation, but that would take some litigation, and I don't think the SEC is going to do that. But looking at this, does Florida State move the needle like Texas and Oklahoma?
Not insanely. No, not.
Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from them as a football program.
Yeah, no, sure.
Right?
But as a brand itself.
Correct.
Yeah. It's certainly not as
North Carolina.
Not as big of a move. No, it's certainly not.
Again, outside of college basketball, does anyone nationally care about North Carolina?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, no.
So it's about the brand. And again, I think the only one that's really left out there is Notre Dame.
Right. Yeah, and we just you just mentioned all the reasons that. I mean, why Notre Dame would you jump to something?
Yeah.
I know we talked about it a few weeks ago, but since then, why would you jump into something? Well, when you have that contract ending in 2025, you said, and can you imagine in this day and age where there are so many different streaming and TV services that are just going to be throwing money at you? I think we could see that.
And you don't have to lock yourself into a deal with the conference, right?
And that money coming in double or triple.
And honestly,
when you talk about value,
they have a couple different sources of revenue they could do, which is you sell your home game package, and then you sell a package to whether it's Fox or ESPN, and whether it's the Big Ten or the ACC, where you say, hey, I'll play a slate of games against these teams.
Yeah.
And so then you get a portion of money. And then you also get Notre Dame in your conference for the other sports, right?
Right.
The basketball, softball, volleyball, all the other sports, you get them except football.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just not going to join a conference, right?
Yeah.
So is that worth it to the Big Ten to have Notre Dame soccer and Notre Dame baseball and Notre Dame basketball, and then you pay them that check to have all of that, and you get some slates against your teams?
Yeah.
Yeah, Notre Dame, I think, is going to remain independent. That's just my guess. And I just think it fiscally makes the most sense.
And you talk about going back to that conversation about the SEC or Fox or whatever, what kind of brands and markets kind of move the needle for you. To me, they have to be in that list of the top 10 or top 15 that we looked at. And guess what? All of those brands and organizations, they're locked up in either the Big Ten or the SEC right now. So there's not really one out there.
Okay, I think the best example of doing this is the South Carolina fan base is so much more vast than the Clemson fan base. I love Clemson. Clemson, if you actually go to the town, beautiful in the mountains up there, and love the atmosphere, love the small town vibe, and I love, honestly, the uniforms, but just all of it, right? Death Valley, Clemson winning is a winning program, right? All of it's great. But if you're just talking about fan base, South Carolina's fan base is so much bigger, and it's fair, right? It's the University of South Carolina.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you can't look at on the field success determining where these brands lie.
Right.
South Carolina is a bigger commodity than Clemson.
Right. And not only that, like that makes sense absolutely. And then you talk about what winning can add to your value or
sure.
your brand. Can it help? Yes, but most of the time that helps after 10 or 15 years of winning, not just 5 or 6.
I see, but
right. So like to
not,
even get the
you're taking 10 and 15 up against like a century.
Yeah, that's kind of what like even to get that needle to move a little bit.
Yeah.
You're talking about longevity that these other brands or institutions have had for 100 years, as you mentioned. So that needle is, even if you win and constantly win or constantly in that conversation for 10 to 15 years, that needle is only going to move so much. And it's not a lot.
It's like Miami against Florida, right? Like Miami had the years where they were the coolest and just kind of the definitive program of college football. But if you want to compare fan bases,
yeah,
it's not close.
Right. And it's wild because, like you said, they were the talk of college football for 5 to 10 years. And
shoot, I'd say you had 2 spans of like 8 to 10 years because you had the Ray Lewis era, and the Michael Irvin era, and all of that leading up into these super teams of Ed Reeds and Sean Taylor and all that. So they had like a good 20 years where they were the coolest thing in college football. Right. But if you just want to talk about fan base throughout all of that, you can go back. We have some guys from these teams that actually join us every year for Ben's Legend Series. Florida goes back all the way past Steve Spurrier playing for them and winning the Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's how long that fan base goes back. So you're comparing I say recent as relevant.
Yeah.
Right? 30, 40 years versus hundreds of years.
Right.
So it's the fan bases are so much bigger. And so we look at that, you have to look at commodities, right? It's not on the field success. It's the size and the viewership that you're going to get by adding these schools. And that's why Notre Dame's so valuable. We got to take a quick break. We're a little bit over. We'll come back with more right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. We got Braves baseball coming up for you here immediately following 3 and Out. Pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock as the Mets come to town. But PJ, I noticed last week a couple times you dropped some sports idioms on us.
Oh no.
Yeah, like you said, against the ropes.
You held on to this all weekend?
Yeah, because I wanted to do it last week and we ran out of time, but I want to do it a little bit now. Maybe we can do it a little bit more going forward because we are running out of time here. So what happens when they only give us an hour? But you said against the ropes last week, and you said across the board last week.
Okay. I do say that quite a bit.
Yes. So what I want to know is, it's just a quick quiz time for you.
Oh no.
Where does across the board originate from?
Oh,
Because it
man.
is a sports idiom.
Really? Okay. Across the board. Across the board. I don't know where could that come from.
You want to
Maybe
do the other one first?
some-
Like
some
against
sort
the
of-
ropes. What does against the ropes come from?
well, it's probably having to do with wrestling or not like real wrestling, I guess. Or like boxing, most likely.
Ure.
Like you're
You're getting your butt kicked.
yeah, and
and-
you're pinned up against the
There
ropes.
you go. So
you know,
nailed,
whatever.
okay, so you nailed that one.
Okay.
Like we could say
across
like when
the
a team's
board,
down 3-1 in a 7-game series, they're against the ropes.
they're up against
Or
the
you're
ropes,
down
yeah.
2 scores and the other team has the football.
Yeah, you're just
against
getting
the ropes.
pummeled,
Yeah,
man.
you're
Yeah.
against the ropes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You got to find a way out.
Yeah.
So for across the board, I'm trying to think of some sort of sport that has like multiple scoring boards of some sort or something. I don't know. This is probably terrible. I don't know. Maybe some sort of like the scoreboard with like baseball, right? You have all the innings, you have all the stats. It's just like someone's just killing things
Yeah.
across the board. They're doing a great job. I have no idea.
So that's fascinating that you said that. I thought I was gonna go back to like coach, like when like you like draw like on a whiteboard or a chalkboard, you're like across the board, they're really good. Like that's what I thought it was gonna be. But it goes back to horse racing.
Wow.
So and gambling, right? So
Oh.
when you bet on horse racing, you can bet on 3 things. You can bet on them finishing first, second, or third, right? And if you bet an equal amount of money on all 3 of those, you're betting across the
Wow.
board,
Wow. Okay. That's really good.
right?
That's the other thing too, is I tried to think of like, all right, what's a sport that's been around for a million years? And I was like, oh, baseball.
Horse gambling.
Horse gambling, apparently. Back with
oldest of the sports.
the chariots and whatnot. Yeah.
I think we got time for a couple more here. Like, okay, so if I said like she just blindsided me with that origin of blindsided.
Oh, it's got to be football. too,
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor getting blindsided. What about the ball is in your court now?
The ball is in your court. I think a lot of people would go basketball with this, but I will go tennis.
It is.
Yes.
Because basically when I serve it to you, the ball is now in your court and it's
Yeah.
up to you to do something with
You got
it.
to figure out what to do.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
What about
Which, if you're talking about old Fritzy there, he didn't have an answer.
he did not. What about what about calling the shot?
Oh, you're calling your shot.
Or you're calling the shots today.
Yeah. Calling your shot. Pool.
Huh?
Pool.
Billiards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
PJ's on fire.
Dude. Come on.
What about down to the wire? Like this game's gonna come down to the wire.
Oh man. Okay, this is where you get me. Down to the wire. Gymnastics.
No, back to horse racing.
No,
The wire, we finished. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to the wire. It's
Down
gonna
to the
come
wire,
down,
okay,
down
alright.
to the very
I
end.
said gymnastics because, like, in my head, I just thought, like, see a bunch of people like walking on tight ropes and whatever.
Okay, so this is
That's
the one
probably
that
more the circus than
I,
gymnastics.
this is the one that I found
Never mind.
exceptional. We'll do this one and then we'll go to break.
Okay.
Catching a second wind, or catching your second wind.
Is that horse racing?
No,
Okay.
that'd be great though.
Because you have those horses are just like, they're just kind of like
No, but yeah, they're catching
piddle-paddling
their
in
second
that-
wind, which means like they're getting a second burst of energy.
Swimming.
There's not a lot of wind in the water.
Oh, maybe like when you go like, I guess they don't come out of water when they
No,
kind
they're not
That's
like
true.
dolphins.
of, yeah, my bad.
Preaching.
Maybe like they kind like came out like you turn around and
Yeah,
kick
no.
off for your second
One more guess.
thing. No, I don't have a second guess.
It comes from sailing.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're kind of going. You got your sail set, and you get that gust of wind.
So is that really a sports analogy then, or
Sailing is a
sports
sport.
thing? Is it?
Sailing is a sport.
Are we
Yeah,
sure?
but NASCAR is a sport. Sailing is a sport. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back, get you ready for 3 and Out next. Big game coming up tonight here on ESPN Radio. Mets Braves 7:20 first pitch. We'll have pregame coverage starting for you at 6 o'clock, immediately following 3 and out. You got Max Fried on the mound, Kevin Thomas walking into the studio, wincing,
strutting in. No, he can't wait.
That was not a strut. That was like a 1990s, early 2000s first baseman hitting like a little bouncer and trying to get out of the box quick and tearing a groin. That's what Kevin Thomas just did. Speaking of Kevin Thomas, you can catch. Yeah, you can catch Kevin Thomas coming up here in about 2 minutes. If you missed any portion of our show, you can check it out on ESPNCoastal.com or wherever you get your podcast. Yeah, Kevin is coming in and getting injured like a 90s first baseman, tearing an oblique, just trying to run out of the batter's box. You can hear more from Kevin next right here on ESPN Radio.